Let's talk about rebirth. Let's talk about, in today's video, rebirth, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual rebirth, and what exactly is the energies as far as rebirth, as far as mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically, and rebirth meaning born again, or you could say a new start to something being rebirthed, something being reborn, or you could say one thing has to die for another to be rebirthed. Therefore, when it comes to the energy of rebirth, is like almost a rebirth of everything, a rebirth of your path, a rebirth of your life and the experiences that you have and what you're going through. And there's a time where some things are at rest and then you start other things. Some things you stop doing for a while and then you go ahead and you start other things. And this is the process of a rebirth, a coming back into the cycle of doing a specific thing, working towards a specific goal, accomplishing specific things, growing in a certain way, developing towards certain ways that you want to develop, and whatever that may be. And a lot of times I think people get down to the places where you're at rest most, or you're so-called in a, let's say, death cycle, not like physically dying, but certain things that you're doing coming to the end, certain things that you have had energy for as far as physically, you are fatigued in that way just for the time being. Certain things as far as mentally, you mentally come to a standstill. Things as far as physically or as emotionally, you feel kind of like complacent or whatever that may be, or sure, you feel comfortable and you feel strong in your power as far as emotionally, but you might come to the place where you're down a bit, or you stop doing certain things, and then you feel a certain way as far as emotionally, as things are ending as far as emotionally. Then spiritually, there's no longer, you might be in a situation where you say, no longer can I believe in myself as far as spiritually, or have the faith and put the faith in myself as far as spiritually. And that's a place where you might find yourself prior to a rebirth, cycle, a birth cycle, you could call it, or birth and death and birth phase, whatever that may be. And that's taking it apart from you thinking, oh, death and life and alive and dead and whatever. It's a concept, and it's a process and a mechanism that we can experience and deal with in life. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to chat about what does rebirth and how does rebirth and the energy of that come into play as far as mentally? How does it come into play physically? How does it come into play as far as emotionally? How does that come into play as far as spiritually? So when it comes in back to my point of bringing up all those examples, is you don't want to stay in that death phase. You want to be in that birth phase, and you want to usher in that rebirth phase and usher in those rebirth energies as best as you can, as strong as you can. Try to push those energies of rebirth when you're in a time of so-called things that are at rest, or things have come to an end and now it's time to start something new. So be ushering in that energy of, let's start something new, let's get back on this is going to be a rebirth. It's going to be basically a new beginning. You could say death is an end, and then a rebirth is a new beginning. You could simplify it at that level, if that's what you would like to do. When it comes to mentally, being in that rebirth energy, it's like, okay, mentally I've gotten to this space where mentally I might be complacent. Mentally I might not be compatible with exactly what is going on at the times, and I've been all over the place as far as mentally. I've had my mind on certain things over here. Mentally, I haven't been able to pay attention and focus my perspective on these certain things as far as mentally, so those things have had to take a rest, and those things that are important to me, and realizing that, hey, mentally I got to rebirth. I got to get back into a path towards mentally having the perspective and having that focus on those things that matter most, of those things that may have came to an end for a short while, but you just need to rebirth that cycle and rebirth those energies and summon them in a way where you have done those things before. So getting back to it is going to be as natural as being born is, as natural as it is to come into a new energy, to start something new. But this in particular case, you know, because you've done it before. You've been on a certain path like this. Sure, things have come to an end, and you can't say that they for sure came to an end or for sure they did come to an end. But either way, you're able to rebirth, able to summon back those energies of mentally, I'm back on my path as far as mentally growing. Mentally, back on my path as far as mentally pushing forward in this strong of an energy. Of course, you were doing that the whole time. You're always moving forward, always being in your power. And shout out to Michael for that. He always reminded me of, you're always in your power. It's just an illusion if it ever seems like you're not. We're always in our power. And but other than that, you're always in your power, and you're able to get back to that growth and that stage of ascension, the stage of reaching those goals that you have as far as mentally, reaching the understandings and overstandings of things as far as mentally, reaching that pinnacle and the peak, reaching towards and farther beyond the pinnacle and that peak of my highest intellectual mind, and being and existing in that, and working towards existing in that, and being able to say, okay, I can always push myself. In this phase, I can spark things back up. I'm back in a rebirth phase of, I'm back to the things that I need to do mentally. I'm back on track when it comes to what, let's say, my spiritual path, and what are those mental responsibilities and obligations that I have to carry across as far as mentally that help possibly my, my spiritual path that I'm on. Getting back to doing those things, getting back to the things that are mentally pushing you more and more forward, and that are mentally going to end up being the things that get you towards where you're reaching towards, and get you towards where you're building towards. And when it comes to mentally, always have that mental space, and always be in a mental space where if things seem like they're coming to an end in one area, something always is going to turn, and you're going to find yourself in another mental state and space of mind and state of being where you're able to say, boom, let's go along with this as far as mentally. Let's rebirth this process, and let's work towards this goals. You can combine a goal that you were previously going for as far as mentally, and grab that and move that forward with what you've grown from experience and what you have experienced in that time of things have come to an end. But take that with you, and take that momentum and that motivation of things were being opposed, whether that be primarily internally or possibly externally, if that's the case. Think about how you can transmute that opposition that you're feeling to then your rebirth has an even more momentum and power behind it as far as mentally, as far as having that in your mind and carrying that perspective with you through the rebirth process and through going through whatever it is that you're going to have to deal with. So mentally rebirthing, have a strong mind, be able to use your mind in ways where you're able to transmute a stagnant energy into something that is moving you forward, something that is moving you into a better space and assisting you in the growth and development of your mind in the mental space that you are in as a being. So that's mentally, you're always going to be thinking about it. So when it comes to a mental rebirth, you really have to be present-minded. You really have to be strong-minded in order to do what it is and have the perspective that you need to have when it comes to mentally. During a rebirth phase or a rebirth cycle or whatever that may be. And when it comes to, let's say physically, a physical rebirth, well, there's times when you are able and you have the access to do whatever it is that you want to as far as physically. Go wherever it is that you want to as far as physically. Do the things that you want to partake in as far as physically. Or you're in a role on things that you might not necessarily like to do, but you know you have to get it done in order to progress, in order to develop when it comes to physically and doing that work and whatever that may be to take care of your physical state of being. You will come to these areas where you're not able to go there this day, or you're not able to go there the next day, and there's time where it's off. For an example of not going to the gym, a perspective of I've been going week after week after week, day after day after day, a couple rests there, a couple rests here, day, week after week after week, working out every day, 5 days in a row, sometimes 6, then 4 in a row, 2 days off, whatever that may be. At some point, you're going to come to a period where you're like, okay, or it might even happen naturally. Just like it happened for me. I'm giving you an example of me at the gym. As far as the physical rebirth, I had maybe 4 days off of the gym, and I was sore. Don't get me wrong, I was sore the whole time. The backside of my legs and up here was sore up until, maybe a day ago, 2 days ago, extremely sore. And that had been around 4 days, 4.5 days of not even going to the gym. And in that time, sure, I was doing other things, and I could have been doing other things, but you run into opposition and obstacles and things that you have to just get through in life where, yesterday I went to sit down to record a video, and I had been, letting certain things keep me procrastinated and keeping me off of doing and being productive. And the moment I sit down, I start to, it could have been something that I ate. I really think it was just like a biological reaction to some sort of substance that, like, in a way that I had taken it in, like all I was doing was, I had some THC, but that doesn't normally do that to me. So as soon as I sat down to make a video, I had a tea next to me already made and everything, and I went and I started sipping on it, and I was sitting back like this, and I had my ring right here just like today, and I saw it kind of like shining in the camera. This was before I even hit record. I was just about to hop on and record a video, and I figured, okay, all I'm seeing right there is that shining in the sun right there. That's what I'm seeing out of this eye. So then I get distracted. I'm on my phone, just waiting. Like I said, I was about to record a video, and I just needed a second. And I'm sitting back like this, on my phone, just sitting back like this, and I'm like, whoa! I really am seeing snakes coiling around, not actual snakes, but sun, and like the retinas were viewing something like a pulsation around my eye, going in a weird way. And I figured, okay, that's just in one eye. Nothing really bad. I covered this eye, looked out this eye, and realized the same thing's happening there. Then, after that, both sides start pulsating, both eyes pulsating. So I got up, realized I have tunnel vision, my vision's clouded, I'm breathing extremely heavy, I don't know what's going on. I felt like I was going to pass out. Felt like I was going to faint or something was going to happen. I mean, I never had that sensation before. So I got that transformed into an extremely bad migraine. And then after that, I had extreme nausea. And I was puking for just 2 separate pukes. And so I threw up a couple times. And then it went away. But that just goes to show, at the end of my, so-called death cycle or death phase of me doing my videos and stuff, and I had it's been you can look on my channel, it's been 8 days or 8 or 9 days since I made a video last, and that is a long time. But even at the end of that, when I went to go make a video, I went to start a rebirth, there was opposition. I felt the opposition when the single moment I sat down to make that video, sat down to be productive, boom, I'm starting to see things in front of my eyes. Boom, I get a headache, extremely bad one. Boom, I get a stomach ache, I'm starting to throw up. And so that took the energy that I had to make the video out, and I could have done one after, but I was focused on recovery, and even with not being in the gym the last 5 days, I know I'm going here and there, but I'm just trying to explain to you guys, you'll get the bigger picture, or the big picture. And it's like I was more focused on, okay, recovery. Now I'm back at it today. I did what I had to do today, got back in the gym, me and my partner, we had a great workout, a very progressive overload as far as the chest and bench press, and then the rest of the workout went well. And that's like, now we're playing with the rebirth here, but we're stepping into a birth cycle of getting back into my videos, getting back into being productive, getting back into doing whatever it is that you have to get back into. So whether that be a natural occurrence where you meet a slow or a slowdown of things, or a so-called death phase or death cycle of things, or there's something external that is affecting you, or that is an obstacle that you have to deal with that goes towards that. But being able to start that up again and start up another rebirth cycle and being able to be on top of that is important in order to advance as far as physically, is important in order to keep continuing to take care of your physical vessel and your physical state of being, and always be able to check in with yourself as far as physically to make sure that you're in the best state of well-being as far as physically. When it comes to, let's go emotionally, emotional rebirth, that's something you're going to feel the whole time during a death and a rebirth cycle, or when you're dealing with these certain energies and the path that you're on. You're going to feel that emotional presence. You're going to feel that emotional reaction to whatever it is that you're going through, and that's something that just happens in life. And when you're going through, let's say, that slow time, try not to get hard on yourself. Try to figure out what is benefiting you from this thing ceasing, from whatever that may be, ceasing and coming to an end, and then building back up that emotional, let's say, strength or emotional will to be on a certain path towards something. Let that build during those slowdowns, during that previous cycle to the rebirth cycle. Let that build, let those feelings like burn a fire and burn the flame within you, coming up to that time of the rebirth, so that when that rebirth time hits and it's time to be reborn, in whatever it is that you're going through, right? Apply this to whatever experience that you're going through. Boom, you're used to using that fire, you're used to using that passion. Once that rebirth hits, you're fueling your flames that much more, and that momentum that you'll start to gain mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually is going to translate into assisting you in the rebirth phase. So emotionally, use that as fire, use that as passion to fuel yourself in whatever it is that you're going through when going into a rebirth cycle. And reaching that rebirth, as far as emotionally, you're going to know that you're on your right path, and you know that you're doing the right thing, and you know that you're stepping into the right time. Like, I'm on a rebirth here. I'm coming back better than ever. I'm coming back stronger than I ever have. I'm coming back this much stronger, that much stronger than I ever have before, and nothing's going to be able to recognize what it is that's coming, because that's just how strong that it's going to be, how big of a rebirth that this is going to be. And being able to know that whatever it is that you went through, that's okay. You have put death to that, and now you're rebirthing certain things. And emotionally be strong, be emotionally present, and be emotionally aware of the rebirth that you're on. Be emotionally aware of the process that you're going through, and be able to check in with your emotional state of being and saying, yep, I'm using my emotional intuition to also be able to confirm that I'm on my right path. Certain things are leading up to this where emotionally I know I'm doing the right thing. Emotionally I am reaching the pinnacle of what it is I need to reach, and that's part of the rebirth process, is reaching higher than no one ever has, reaching higher than you may never have. And therefore, you might be reaching higher than for things that, sure, others have aspired to reach, but have they reached that? And if they haven't reached that, that's their own path. But it's for you in your life to know that you pride yourself on the strength that you possess as far as mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and the strength that is you. So that's right. Like, all this has to do with, the rebirth energy, starting something again, starting, like, being reborn. You were born before, something came to an end, you're reborn, rebirthing period. Or, you start, something ends and you start something new. Whatever that may be, it all has to do with, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, all having to do with the process of a rebirth. So when it comes to spiritual rebirth, we're not necessarily saying, well, I say we, but I'm really saying, I'm not talking about, because it's the collective, right? So that's why I say we. But when it comes to spiritually, we're not talking about born again Christian, born again Jew, born again Catholic, born again Jehovah's Witness, etc. You guys get the point. We're not saying, oh, born again into a new religion, into a new doctrine, or whatever that may be. We're talking about you as a being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, basically, is going through a process that, sure, they've talked about in religions like Christ being born again and whatever that may be. In other religions, they've talked about things of that, of the essence of miracle, the essence of magic, and of these things being done, or in this case, a rebirth. You're going through that cycle as far as a spiritual rebirth. That all has to do with mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because does it not? Those things have to do with what you're going through as a spirit, experiencing the things and the experiences and circumstances that you go through in life. So therefore, it does have to do with, at the end of the day, that's a spiritual rebirth. And that's really what I mean. Of course, some may find that that's what works for them. Religion this, religion that. I follow what these people say. I follow what this says. But it could be anything. It could be breaking free from your preconceived notions, breaking free from your preconceived mental notions, emotional, physical notions. Therefore, you're rebirthing a new spiritual perspective that you have. Rebirth spiritually could be, now I'm on a path where I just rebirth some things. I'm summoning the energy of, I'm now even more spiritually aware. I'm now even more coming up with more spiritual systems, more ways and spiritual overstandings and understandings and understandings, really, of what is happening mentally, what is going on physically, what is going on emotionally, not just within, but also without, all within and without. As within, so without. And when it comes to all these aspects, coming together, I'm able to be on my spiritual path that much better, well, now that I'm spiritually rebirthed. Each situation that I go through mentally, I can be aware of things spiritually. Each situation that I go through physically, I can be aware of things as far as spiritually. And carrying that aspect of the spiritual state of being with you in all sectors of your existence, therefore you're growing as much as you can when it comes to spiritually. And you're ascending as much as you can with what you have in, with what you go through as much as you can. Therefore, whatever I'm going through as far as emotionally, I'm bringing a spiritual understanding of these things and of these spiritual systems that I can reflect these experiences on and get spiritual essence out of it, get spiritual purpose, spiritual reasoning, whatever that may be, spiritual wisdom, knowledge, truth, whatever that may be, and also everything that I go through as far as spiritually staying protected through whatever it is that I go through, and knowing that I can do a rebirth at any time. I can mentally rebirth, I can physically rebirth, I can emotionally rebirth, I can spiritually rebirth. But being aware of all aspects to your rebirth is a good check-in to be kicking off yourself on that path to greatness. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Fly high, angels.